Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Ayobami Bakare. All right, so in a minute, I will share my screen. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar session. The session has been organized by Plus Circle Community Health Advancement Organization, a non-profit, non-governmental organization committed to promoting community health, school health, and research practices conducted in ethical manners. Okay, so as confirmed previously, the webinar is a weekly event that holds by 8 a.m. and the objective is clearly cut to provide the participants with good understanding of research and to ensure that we have the sufficient information needed to ensure that we conduct good quality research that are replicable. So in the past 3 weeks, we've been having like a weekly workshop where we've been discussing different components of a manuscript. We've talked about the introduction session, we've talked about the method section, and today we are going to be talking about how to write your results section of a manuscript. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to proceed to welcome our speaker, and I'll take his bio shortly. Our speaker is Dr. Ayobami Bakare. He is a community health physician at the University College Hospital, Ibadan, Nigeria. He has recently completed his PhD program at the Karolinska Institute, Sweden. Dr. Bakare's research area is focused on child health with particular interest in vaccine, oxygen, nutrition, and implementation science. In today's session, Dr. Bakare would be unfolding and unwrapping how we can put our best feet forward in writing our results section. And let's recall that our results section, as mentioned previously in one of the sessions we've held, needs to tally or be tidied with our results. So that agreement must be present. If you have any question during the course of this presentation, kindly use the chat box, or alternatively, you could wait till the end of the presentation session and where you can use the hand raise icon to directly ask a question during the Q&A session. All right, so without further ado, I would make Dr. Bakare co-host and invite him over to take the session. Over to you, Dr. Bakare. You have coast rights now, sir.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Anu, for that introduction. And thank to the organizer of this seminar series for having me here. I'm Ayobami Bakare, and I'm glad to take this topic. So I want to just share my screen briefly. I'll get my opinion now. Sorry. Yeah. So today we'll be considering get to manuscript results, and just like what Anu said earlier, that your result needs to sync with the other aspects of the manuscript writing. So now I want to say that, okay, writing the result section, the result section is usually considered like the heart of the manuscript. So many people reading your manuscript, they want to know, okay, what did you find from your study? You know, you've discussed the introduction, you have highlighted the gaps in knowledge and how what's your result intend to take move the research further. So for the research section, your readers will be interested that, okay, what did you find? So it is important that as a researcher, as a writer or an author, we need to communicate that research section succinctly with clarity. And one of the bullet points I've put there is that you need to present it in a logical, concise, and clear manner. Reviewing some manuscripts as part of the peer review process. You read some, and as the reviewer, you get lost. And also maybe you are trying to review or try to shall I say, support younger colleagues trying to do their maybe manuscript writing. So you see that fine, you have this what you want. The result is there, but it's not just it's not just coherent. So when you want to write your result, you need to give a reflection on, okay, part of it is that it needs to be logical, there needs to be a clear pattern, it needs to be systematic, and it needs to be concise. So I put some suggestions. You need to avoid ambiguity, and this common mistake I see from younger or grown up colleagues. When you are writing, I used to say writing is different. When you're writing academic writing, is different from spoken English. The way you speak, can speak casually, can say so many things that, okay, people tend to understand. But in academic writing, especially your results, you need to avoid that kind of ambiguity. When you are using pronouns, it needs to be clear which pronouns, which noun is your pronoun, referring to, and pull like that. So these are just some simple things that as researcher we just need to take notes. Then also try to avoid the complex sentences. When we are talking, maybe say so many things in terms of our communication, but in a result writing, just keep it very simple. Let it be clear. And another thing that it is important that we also remember is that we need to consider the focus of the study, the primary and the secondary objectives. So just like I said in the introduction, all the components needs to agree. They need to tally. There needs to be what is called, there's this thing called a red thread. So you don't need to be moving haphazardly. So if your focus is on vaccine among adolescents, you've discussed that in the introduction. You've told us the methods. So in the results, let your results also relate to vaccine among adolescents. Not that you now start presenting, perhaps you have conducted something among adolescents and also among under 5 children. Don't come and start presenting results of under 5 children and be mixing it with the adolescents. So you need to consider that for what is your primary objective and what are your other secondary objectives. And like this one also, your research should not be tangential to your introduction and your methods, and the research section should answer your research questions. So you need to, as a writer, you need to critique your work. You need to have a self-reflection on what you are writing. Are you answering your research questions, with your results? So that's going to guide you on what to put, because sometimes we conduct a study and you just have so many results, and you start wondering, okay, which one should I put? Which one should go to appendix? You understand now? So you need to have this reflection that the results should answer your research question. Then here I put a kind of general approach. Number one is present descriptive data before the results from inferential statistics. So like it's just a general approach. So if your research is like, or maybe determinants of childhood fascination status, or so. So in your result, you want to know, okay, who are the people that you interviewed, who are the people that formed the respondents of that study, you try to let us know. You may also let us know about the vaccine status also. You understand? Or for example, if your study is on should I say COVID-19, perception of COVID-19 among the market women. So want to know your table one should be on, okay, what are the social demographic characteristics of the people that you included in your study. And then the other one will now be like, okay, another table now focus on the perception and their perception before you now start going to inferential statistics before, okay, what are the factors associated? So now I put something that descriptive data does not require stating whether your finding are statistically significant. So this is something that I would like to highlight, that the common mistakes, especially perhaps is something that maybe when you're doing comparative studies or so, and you want to show that, okay, for example, if you are doing, let me say, COVID-19 vaccine uptake among rural and urban residents in Kano State. Now, for example, so our table of sociodemographic characteristics may have the residents, want to know their age, educational status, their religious background, and the likes like that. So it will be, it is a wrong use of p-value when you begin to report p-value for that descriptive statistics, because just descriptive statistics, whether there are differences in their social demographic characteristics, you are not rejecting or as failing to reject the null hypothesis. So rather, what you can just report for that is to report the confidence interval. So there is a growing, in the scientific palace now about creating more awareness about the wrong use of the p value. So I want to highlight this, that descriptive data, you don't usually require to report the p value, but rather you can report the confidence interval of your findings. All right. Then still talking about the writing, I want to talk about the writing approach, because you have your data that you've analyzed. So how do you present this? How do you present your results? So there are different approaches. So I name one, the fact presentation. So, and also we have another one that is interpretative. So for example, if let's say from the rural and urban, you have maybe 36% of the male of the respondents are male in rural, and that maybe 53% are female, are male also in urban. So in terms of fact presentation, you may just state, okay, 36% are male, and in rural, while 53% are male in urban. But you can go further, like maybe you have interpretative in the sense that you can just say that there are higher proportion, you understand, of male in the urban, among the urban respondents. So in a way, you've tried to add a kind of taking it further, like add a meaning to it. So these are some little tricks or approaches that you use to like writing your result. And I would like you to, so this is one paper that if you look at this result now, and perhaps how will you write these results? So this study that we conducted to understand the pneumonia priorities among experts. So talk about across the board. So expert participation across the round of prioritization and ranking. I just want to give us a short exercise. Look at this table. If you have to write the results, just two, maybe just 3 sentences. You can just type briefly in the chat. Just, or if you have a volunteer that wants to just say one or two, 2 or 3 sentences about this table. Any volunteer or any.
Dr. Bakari, I think you can call someone.
Okay, let me see. Is it Dr. Sunday Oko? Can you look at this table and just like in brief, write your result or present it? Dr. Sunday, okay, you're talking. Maybe it's having a network problem. Let me see. Probably can I call James? Okay, Diron. What do you have to say about this table? Can you just let's be free to talk. We are learning, nobody knows it all. Just to make it more practical. Okay, any volunteer? Any volunteer? Just look at the table, front right. Okay, without no volunteer, no problem. I'll try to highlight what I want to say. So you could see that as part of the opening statement, so about the number of participants, we compiled a list of 379 experts, this a further presentation, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you go down here now, you can see that we started with an equal gender balance. You can see. So that's the kind of interpretative writing, an equal gender balance. So if you look at original invite here now, you can see this is 50%, 48%. So pretty equal. So someone else can write and say, in our study at the beginning, 50% were male, which is still okay, but sometimes it is good to combine this approach, you understand, so that you try to bring to the fore some key things that may affect the finding in your study, some key things that your participants or your audience or readers may be interested, which they may not interpret it that way. So it's good to just quickly highlight it in your results. So you can see that with an equal gender balance, 40% of experts within research institute, you see under the institution around 40% and 53% based in high income countries. So you can see how we've just written some key points from each row. Some other people, they start like, okay, 43, 40, 50% are male, while 48% are female. You don't need that. You understand? Under the institution, some people may just write uh, from the institution, 40% were from research institute, 29% were from NGO, 19% were from government. That is not a good writing. Do you get the point now? Because they're just repeating what is in that table. But instead, try to highlight key things. So, for example, just like the way we have highlighted 53% were in high income country, and you could see that. So probably some of the findings here may represent, opinions from high income, from high income country. Another thing that the we could have also done is, okay, depending on what we want to present, to what we want to highlight also to our reader, as we have reported 53% are high income country, we can also report the proportion from lower and middle income country. But reporting each subset categories is not really a good way. They're just taking unnecessary space. Remember that journals, they have what they need. So it is a way of, so you need to think of, okay, how do you summarize this tape? And you see that key differences we have to highlight. So there are no respondents from South and Central America, and the highest number of participants were based in in USA. You understand? So you can see some key statements that is going to help the to actually understand what we're saying, or what we found. You understand? So that is important that we know that. So it's a style. It's something that we need to pick up as we write. Trying to highlight key findings. Not that you have to say everything. It is not all the results, of the analysis you need to type, or you need to write out. But based on your literature review that you have done, some other studies, other factors, other factors that you think may influence your result, some differences, you need to just highlight them. In this paper, we have to highlight that, okay, at the last round, we had 59 more male at the last round. I think we highlighted that because initially we started with equal, but at the last round we had more male. So you see that interpretative and also fact. Then another thing that I would like to also, let me see, maybe when I get there, is now there are some common mistakes that as a researcher, it is good that you avoid it. So when you're writing results, sometimes I review manuscripts. So you need to, number one, when you are writing in present or future tense for the result, because your result is that giving us account of what you found from your past study. So you need to, like, most of the time needs to be in past tense. So this is something that maybe master's student may make mistake of, because you are trying to work on your proposal and rework your proposal presentation into your book. So that result section, you need to go and change it into past tense and modify it. Another mistake is a result not related to study objectives, because you like some results, you're now trying to put those results, forgetting that you have already set the pace at the introduction and also your method. So also talk about unnecessary citation incorporated. Usually you have less citation in the results session many times, but you have more citation in the introduction and methods. And then another mistake is also wrong interpretation, of a statistical analysis. This is something that perhaps plus into, sometimes, how to interpret odds ratio, confidence interval, relative risk, or so. So sometimes we ascribe wrong interpretation to that. Odds ratio of so let's say 1.5 and odds ratio of 0.6. They are quite different, in terms of interpretation. And then another common mistake is interpretation of findings. So interpretation of your findings, the essence of your result is to tell us what you found. In the discussion, you will tell us what your result means. So you should not be telling us what your result means or why it is so in the results section. So this is something that you need to be aware of, so that when you write, you need to critique and say, okay, no, this one is for what is it called? It's for the discussion. Oftentimes we all make this mistake, you understand? So it's not far-fetched, during process of manuscript writing, and when we are reviewing with other co-authors, send to other authors to also review. So just I think this is supposed to go to it's supposed to be in the discussion, you understand? So because of the way you are writing, and inadvertently you have introduced your interpretation of the findings, you understand? So you just need to be careful for this and just try to be sure that, okay, during results writing, we are not to interpret, but we are to present what we have found in our research.
What did they say?
Then another mistake is sometimes the unit is not provided. Unit of measurement. If you are measuring BP, it's millimeter per mercury. If it is height, it is in either centimeter or meter. So many times you need to ensure that the results and the units, the unit of the measurement is provided. Another common mistakes we sometimes we make is multiple format, inconsistent decimal points. I remember when I was in our last trying to send some of my work to other co-authors, and one person just said, what decimal point are you using? Are you using sometimes report to 2 decimal points, sometimes 1 decimal point, and sometimes you not use a decimal point. So you just need to know this so that when we write a manuscript, we review it ourselves, check for the decimal point, and you can see if I go back to this place now. So you can see this table now. You can see that we didn't use any decimal points here. So it will be so let's say it will be a poor scientific writing if, for instance, here you have 50.0 in one, another place 10.1, just haphazard. So you need to take note of that. If you are using if you are not using the decimal points, maybe perhaps because of the journal, because some journals also have a requirement, just stick to that. Then missing essential details in the analyzed data, we need to take note of that, when you are presenting your result. I'm not talking about this writing result. I'm not talking about data summarization, tables, or anything, but I'm just focusing on some tips about how to write our results. So, missing essential details of the analyzed data. For example, if you are presenting your results in a table, for example, let me see. In this place, you can see that we have HIC, and we have a footnote here. That's okay. That represents our income country. You understand? And you see there's one asterisk here also. The expert where no email will be found. There are sometimes that. So there are some key details, that serve, that helps your reader to understand your findings better. So you need to actually take note and present those details. Another common mistake is repetition of data in the table. So you need to avoid what you have either in the charts or so. Don't repeat data, rather just try to highlight key things. And you could see in this place now, we're not repeating the data. Again, we're not just in original invite, 50% were made, 40% from Research Institute. In round one, 38% were made, and 27% were from NGO. In round two, we're not trying to repeat that table again, and that is a common mistake that many people also make. So this what you have in the table, you don't have to repeat it in text again, but rather just highlight some key things that you need to highlight. That depends on your research objective, what you found, and things that you want. Perhaps you have the intention of telling us more about it in the discussion. So these are things that we need to know. There are another common mistake which we need to be aware of is suppression of negative findings. Sometimes people don't avoid reporting negative findings. That is not good science. You understand? So even if you have negative findings, because research is a continuum. There's a study now that we're trying to, because when you report negative findings, it also opens more up for further research. So, for example, there was a randomized control trial that was done, I think it was in Malawi, on use of a bubble CPAP for treatment of pneumonia, in delivering of medical oxygen. So instead of using low flow nasal pumps oxygen, so they tried to use bubble CPAP for older children. Bubble CPAP was not usually being used for neonates. So, but they found like it was increasing mortality, and they had to stop the trial. But another study conducted in Ghana and Malawi, they found positive. They found positive findings, and that opens arguments for what is the role of bubble CPAP in management of maybe childhood pneumonia. Also, I can say that from the result we have mixed results, thereby calling for further evaluation. But if they are suppressed the negative finding, or what the research committee will just be saying that, oh, there are more evidence in favor of use of bubble zipper. And you see this also in maybe for those who are fast doing systematic review. You discover that even with different randomized control trial, the conclusions sometimes are mixed. You understand? They are mixed. One may find a positive association, another one may find a negative association. So suppressing that negative association or not reporting it is not good. Shall I say, it questions the credibility of your work. You understand? So it's questioning the credibility of your work, and sometimes also it's also not that you report only findings that are associated or that have a positive association or that are statistically significant. These are another common mistakes. Also, I've seen reviewer, some people like, okay, just focus on only the ones that are positive, that have a statistical significance. The fact that it has statistical significance does not mean that what is the policy implication? What is the implication to practice? So some things may not be statistically significant, but they have implication for in practice. They have implication in policy, and these are some things that, as a researcher, we need to also highlight in our results. We need to state it and just like, okay, though not statistically significant, because if only everything that you report in your study is just statistically significant. So me as an external person, I've start querying that, okay, why is everything statistically significant? Are there issues with the analysis? Are there issues with the participant selection? Are there issues with the questionnaire administration and the likes? Research is a thing of balance. You need to balance what are things that are not that are of clinical relevance, but or that have policy, they have policy implication, but they may not be statistically significant. You still need to report them. Also, just say that they are not statistically significant, and in your discussion, you can now come back to it and take that further. So another common mistake I think I've discussed this is presenting irrelevant data that are not relevant to your study. Now, before rounding up, this is something that I also want to highlight: numbers in academic writing. We have 10, 15. Which one should we write in words? Which one should we write as a figure or in a numeral? So these ones, there are no. You may need to, you can check it up, also read, but the general consensus, general rule is that, number one, all numbers under 10, we need to write them out. If you're having a random number like 400, 2000, like over 400 or so, you need to also write them in words. If you have ordinary numbers less than 10, like fourth, first, second, you need to also write them in words. Common fraction, 1/3, 1/4, half, you also need to write them in word. And there's also a general rule of thumb that numbers beginning a sentence start some, like in some American journal also, that they still start the beginning of the sentence with a numeral, but generally, these are just some general, something that taken as a kind of rule or culture. You understand? So number beginning a sentence or title, but some you need to write them in words. And sometimes, preferably, instead, you write the sentence if possible. Then some approximate number or some times of the day, like full, half, quarter, hours time, or so you need to write them in words. There are some numbers, however, I need to write them as a figure or numeral, that is like number 10 and above. You are talking about reporting money, $5, $10, $100, measurement, 6 centimeter, if it's percentage, scores, time, or age, as much as possible. These are prevalently, written in 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 figure or numeral, because that's just some little tips. You get feedback that okay, you need to do a language editing for your manuscript. So these are some little stuff that they need to check that okay, where it's supposed to be written in words. Are you writing them in words? So this one just needs to just check them more and more, and you get more familiar to it. But it's an important uh, principle that you just need to know also. But before I go to this, also go to the next section, I want to mention that also in terms of decimal points, also usually general rule is most times you report to 1 decimal point for your proportion, your percentage, report to 1 decimal point. For odds ratio, usually is in 2 decimal points, and also there are rules also for a decimal point for p values also. Now, it's good for me to also talk about how you determine your outlines for results. I just have some here as a guiding principle. So part of it that can affect your result and the outlines. What are the things that you're going to write? The sub-headings for your result section. Number one is your study objective. So, for example, if my like let's say I'm interested in awareness, perception, and knowledge of let me say emergency contraceptive among female adolescents. So based on this, we say like, okay, I want to know their level of awareness, I want to know their perception, I want to know their knowledge. So for this, I will first of all have a kind of maybe the first section we talk about the social demographic details of my respondents. Another one may have a figure on the level of awareness. I might have another one on awareness and so let's say perception. Depending on how I frame the question, I may also have how I measure the knowledge. I also have another subsection on the knowledge of their knowledge about emergency contraception, and if I want to do a kind of infectial statistics, I have factors associated with knowledge. So my objective influences the sub-headings that I have. However, there are also some other things that can affect it. You also have the journal requirements can affect it, but more importantly, the reporting guideline also, because there are guidelines for reporting depending on the type of research that you are doing. So, in looking at coming up with result outline, it's good for you to also consult relevant guidelines. You understand, so that will help you also. We have for observational studies, stroke for quantitative study like correct also. So that we also, because the guidelines tell you some specific things that you need to report under the results section. So you can consult that also. Now, uh, most of the things that have been said are related to, let's say, quantitative study, but they're still relevant qualitative study also. So, how do you write results for qualitative study? That is something that is also important nowadays. Now that we have a more qualitative studies are getting more grants and people mix method. So, and qualitative studies different from quantitative study. Right? In quantitative study, you start reporting statistics. Report if something is significant or not. You report more of numbers, but in qualitative, the data that you have, is more fluid, is interpretative, and how do you present that? So I have one here. So how do you present prevalence, in qualitative study? You cannot be saying 5 participants said this, 20 participants of the people we have of the participants in the, let's say, of the 20 participants in the FGD, 15 were in support of this opinion, while 5 were in support of the other opinion. You don't report qualitative studies like that. So you don't expect that prevalence in terms of number, but you can express it in terms of majority. So you use what? Majority, few participants were of the opinion, and sometimes you can highlight, because of the nature of quantitative study, highlight that, okay, one participant believed, because information from one participant is as important as the others. If one participant has a divergent opinion from others, that one participant, you won't say because it's just only one, that one is not significant. Unlike in quantitative study, whereby just one is negligible, you can overlook it. No. So in quantitative study, so one, majority, few, many, these are some words that you can use to actually report prevalence. And also, we have what's called also good to have opening statements. Talk about your overarching themes before you go to something like opening statement about your findings in that place. And let me try to see if I can share my other screen briefly. I'm coming to show just a minute. Okay, so let me add this. I'll come just 1 minute. Okay, so I'm trying to. So you can see this is result section for this one. Let me. I believe you can see my screen. So you can see we have like a kind of some opening, like introduction into the results, so to say, like trying to give an overview of that result, what we found. So I can see that the overcoming teams identify was concurrent joining of fear, hope, sense of faith along the treatment course. This describes struggle, fears, hopelessness expressed by caregivers following the medical, whatever, blah, 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 blah. In Lagos, where exposure and access to medical oxygen were higher, oxygen was generally considered as a promising intervention. In Jigawa. So we had this a kind of opening statements just to like summarize some key things before we now start going to the key, the themes also. You understand? If you there's another one here that I want to show. If you see this one also, this also the result. You can see this introduction like a short statement. Our analysis identified 4 global themes that highlighted context shaping the quest for pediatric pneumonia by community. Data from interviews and focus group discussion compared together as there were no significant. Furthermore, we identified great deal of overlap between the 2 geographical settings with many common themes and colors. So many times for reporting qualitative studies, you may need to have this this opening you need to have this opening statement. So talking about the overarching themes, what you just found, try to summarize it in a way that is very succinct, before you now delve into some key components. One key or skill also you need to have is you need to also bring when you are writing qualitative study report the resource section for its triangulation. We need to highlight what are the similarities among your, should I say, your participants. What are the similarities in terms of what they are saying? You understand? What are the differences in terms of what you have? And in doing this thing, that just use some words, just use some words to connote that. Let me show if I can show you another example from our study. So you can see like experience of care and quality of care in this place, so that in both settings, so you can see in both settings, quest for therapy often included attendance at local pharmacy, particularly given their distance. So we try to, so that's the kind of trying to say, okay, things are similar in a way. Do you get now? So when you're trying to write results for qualitative study, you can also see in this place caregivers in Jigawa and Lagos accepted, and follow the care, whatever. Do you get it? So we use so both, things that bring that just represents, that shows similarities, depending on the nature of your of your study. And when you're supposed to highlight differences, also you can highlight differences. I'm trying to see if I can have another example of where we highlighted differences in I don't have a paper here, but it's good to just compare and contrast in a way. So these soft skills are necessary when you are reporting, when you are writing for qualitative studies, trying to, okay, what you found, what the report, are they quite different in terms of participant group? If you are doing a qualitative study among, should I say, perception of stakeholders among towards new vaccines or so, what the healthcare workers are saying, uh, what is it the same from what the community members, also the same with religious members or so. So these are things that you need to put. It is good to highlight, when you are writing your results section. You get for qualitative study. That is what brings about, should I say, it adds credibility. It has a kind of trustworthiness to your work. And then use of quotes. So you need to use quotes to support the narratives that you have. However, I've seen many people, don't just go and, should I say, do not use so many quotes. Do you get now? Don't use so many quotes. I've seen qualitative reports. Sorry. So I've seen quantitative reports whereby it's just quote, 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 quote. That is not a good reporting style. Quote is just to support whatever narratives that you have said before, and don't use so many quotes. Just one or two okay like that. Then before I conclude, I also want to talk about, writing results for mixed method, because the title of my focus is on writing, is a guide to writing results, and there are different types of research or manuscripts. Talk about some things that you need to be aware of in quantitative, qualitative, and then mixed method. And mixed method is when you studies whereby you have a component of quantitative, you have a component of qualitative also. So how do you write that result? It's something that can be challenging, and it's something that you may need to discuss with other authors. But you understanding the essence of mixed method, we actually help you. And in the mixed method, what are we looking for, as a reviewer, as reader? And I want to highlight it is this integration. How does the quantitative and the qualitative, how do they blend together? And what is the relationship that the two have? In your mixed method, you need to, like, is it enhancing? Is it confirming? Is one confirming the other? Is one trying to explain? So that your position is key. When you are writing your result session for a mixed method, because what makes it a mixed method is the integration. You understand? So integration is how you mix the two together, and usually do this either at the result section or at the discussion session. So integration can happen at the result section or discussion session. And so for the result session, there are different approaches. So some may want to present, you may first of all present the quantitative components, and then you present the qualitative part later. Depending on which one has weight, you can also present the qualitative first and now present the quantitative. Another approach may be to present the two together. So if you are talking about perception towards vaccine, you can measure perception, maybe quantitatively, you can present that. And if you have conducted interview also that explore perception, so you can present the two together. So that depends on your research question. Let me show the example of one study. So this is a mixed method. See, a mixed method evaluation of stakeholders' perspective on pediatrics pneumonia in Nigeria. So you can see how the results. So the results session, the first aspect talk about this quantitative. Just presented the quantitative first. Pneumonia priorities, still presenting the quantitative. But next, we now move to system barriers, and you talk about the qualitative. So this is one approach, presenting quantitative and then the qualitative. So you can just separate it down. But you see that all the subsections needs to relate to they need to relate to your study objective. So there are different approaches. I think this should be the end of the of my.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Bakari. That was filled with a lot of insight. Yes, and I gained a couple of things. Thank you. So, colleagues would be taking questions, clarifications, and the rest. Please, you may use the hand raise icon to signify if you have any questions to ask. Why? Okay. So we have one. Okay. So I would call everyone on this call a doctor. Okay. So, Dr. Samuel Akman, over to you. Please ask your question. After which we take Dr. Yesiru Karim.
Thank you very much. So, Dr. Ayobami Bakari, for an insightful presentation. I wanted to ask, when you talked about triangulation in terms of presenting the result or discussing the result, I have a question. Is the triangulation, are you trying to compare with the result with other studies? Sorry, did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard that regarding triangulation, are you trying to compare results with other studies?
Yes, you are finding other studies, or you're trying to compare within the variables that you were testing. Like you're saying, maybe you're comparing between male and female, or this group and that group. So what is that comparison triangulation you're speaking about? Thank you.
Okay. Should I go ahead to?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, sir, for that question. Very interesting. So for the triangulation, you are comparing within your study participants. You understand? So because in quantitative studies, who your study participants who they mean affect their perception, affect their responses, or so. you have difference. So you try to highlight that is one form of triangulation. Sometimes it may be in terms of setting that, okay, oh, what I'm getting here is different from so let's say the kind of from let me give you an example now. In our study, one of my PhD papers, I look at factors, things that affect acceptability of oxygen, and we interviewed people in Lagos, also interviewed people in Jigawa, and in Lagos we discovered that cost was a huge determinant of oxygen acceptance. But in Jigawa, that was not a determinant, because the health system, we have more of free child health services in Jigawa. You understand? So I have to highlight that difference. That's a kind of a triangulation. And similarly, in Jigawa, we had more of a misconception about oxygen. You understand? Rumors, the death sentence, and the likes. Whereas in Lagos, oxygen was being considered as is a good therapy, because some of the participants have even had surgery before. They have received oxygen, and it wasn't that they didn't see it as a big deal. So highlighting those differences is a kind of triangulating, your research findings. So you are not comparing it with other external, what other people have reported. That one, you do that in the discussion section. But for your result, you need to triangulate, so that the essence of qualitative studies to have, you want to have the description of the reality of your participant, and reality is not static, unlike in quantitative. So for example, now it may be cold here, it may be hot in the north. You understand? So all these things still they still add up to the reality in Nigeria. Do you get? So we want to triangulate the differences. Tell us where there are similarities and where there are differences. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bakare. Dr. Karim, over.
Okay, good morning. Thank you very much, sir, for the very enlightening presentation. I have two questions. And the first is, when you are talking about the use of decimals, talked about proportions versus the percentages and then the p-value. So I want to ask that in order to have a uniform decimal, is it possible that one will just use maybe 2 decimal places for either proportion, percentage, or even p-value? Or one has to, if I'm using 1 decimal place, I can use my proportion, for example, then maybe use 2 for percentage, and maybe then 3 for p-value. Which of them does the uniformity, which does it actually confine to? Then under that, some people say that since we say that our p-value that is chosen is 0.05, why not make the p-values as 2 decimal places, even though some of the statistical software will bring out the p-value in 3 decimal places. But why not using 2, since we are using a reference of 0.05? So I want to clarify that. Then the second one is comparing the prose that we write and what we have on our table. Is it possible to write some things in text that is not on the table? For example, after completing the frequency table, maybe age, the frequency, and the percentage, and like that, can somebody write maybe the mean of the age, for example, in the prose, while introducing that particular table, but then that mean and standard deviation is absent from the table. So I want to clarify this as well. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kanda. Those two questions are very excellent, and I'm happy that you actually asked them. So regarding decimal places in quantitative, so usually as a rule of thumb, for decimals, proportion usually write into 0.1. You understand? That is maybe 7.3%, 6.4%. For p-values that I have it, maybe I know. For p-value, there are also some rules. P-values here, and you can see P is always italicized. Do not use 0. The actual p-value should be expressed rather than this. So if the p is like, let's say your p is less than, let's say, 0.000001, it's expected that you just abbreviate it to p less than 0.001. If it is between 0.001 and 0.001, that one you report it to 3 decimal places, and then if you also report another one to 2 decimal places, depending on the value of your p. So the decimal place you are going to choose depends on the value of your p for that one. So you can still check that I put it here. You can see if p, if p is less than 0.1, it should be expressed in a digit. You can see this one, p is equal to 0.00 is not good. It's impossible. No, don't put p is equal to 0.0000, but rather it should be written as less than 0.0001. So there are still rules guiding that reporting of p also. You understand? But for proportion, the usually to 0.1 decimal place. For odds ratio, relative risk, usually to 2 decimal places. And then regarding your other question about prose and text, can you write some things? Can you report some things that are not in the table? I will say yes and no. And the reason I'm saying yes and no is because of the examples, the example that you gave. So it is not everything that you need to put in a table or chart. In fact, there are also rules. If you are just about 2 variables or so, you shouldn't put it in a table. You can just report that as a text. You understand? So there's some analysis that you are going to do that may not fit into any table. You can report that, which is very vital to your research objective. You understand? So it is not everything that you have in the table that you need to report, and there are some things that you need to report that you may not have them in your table. I want to say that. But however, from the analysis that you put, there are some things that it is a must, like let me say confessionally, that you need to report it. So for example, if you give us the mean, you need to tell us the standard deviation. You understand? So if you are not stating the mean and not reporting the standard deviation, it's not a good is not a good writing style, because you limit what we can interpret. For example, now, if you say, if I have the main score is 56.1, I need to know the standard deviation. You understand? If you don't report the standard deviation, what we can infer is minimal. We just know that the main score is 56.1. We don't know how spread, how they are very close, how close the results are. You understand? So that I said yes or no. So there's something for the example that you give. You cannot just report the mean and not put the standard deviation in brackets. Just like also if you are doing the odds ratio, because it's part of what makes your results interpretation, your result clear. Part of the your odds ratio. Let's say if I have odds ratio of, I need to put the confidence interval. So if I have the confidence interval as 5.9 to 6.5, you understand now? I need to state it. I can still have odds ratio of 6.3, and I have a confidence interval of 5.9 to 100.0. I can also still have odds ratio of 6.3, and I have a confidence interval of 0.6 to 7.0. All these confidence intervals that I've added, they mean different things. Do you get it? So you cannot. So there are some things that, especially for all this odds ratio, mean. So you need to let us know the dispersion. The dispersion says a lot about the data, or so. It says a lot about even the study, the respondents. It says a lot about the inference you are going to draw. Do you get? It tells us whether should some findings be taken seriously. Some findings, are they really strong or so? So for this example, like mean odds ratio, you need to tell us the confidence interval or the standard deviation. It goes together like that for better interpretation of your result. And for example, if you report odds ratio of 6.3 and you give me the standard deviation of 5.9 to 6.5, so you can see that it's very close. So that means that there's a strong association. You can see that yes, this is a strong association, and most likely your estimate is correct. But if you give me 6.3 in bracket 5.9 to 100, you can see that's a wide confidence interval, even though it shows association, but it is wide. The precision is a bit wide. I said, okay, why are you getting this? Maybe because of a small sample size that you have used or anything. So you can see reporting the confidence interval is already helping us to actually interpret your results better and put it in context. You understand? And that will also help you also maybe during your discussion. You understand the point? So I hope I've answered your two questions.
Thank you,
Yes,
Dr.
thank you, sir.
Bakari. Thank you. Dr. Polycarp, over.
Okay, thank you very much. Mine is just a follow-up questions to the last two questions. First, I know that table is one of the, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you. So I know that table is one of the tools for presentation of the result. Now, my concern is presenting results that are in categorical. For instance, I'm presenting the proportion of sex, maybe male or female, and I have this data or this result on the table. Now, can I still present such data using other tools like graph or maybe like graph or a chart? That is one. Now, going to the mixed method, that is the triangulation asked by the first person. Before now, I used to think that integration or triangulation is more like trying to establish whether the qualitative data you have supports the quantitative, or where they differ. But it is also interesting to know that from your explanation that is like comparing the view or the quotes of different participants. There is the different respondents, maybe there is in-depth interview, for instance. But I just want to clarify this notion I had, whether is it okay for us to look at triangulation as whether my qualitative data support or differ from the quantitative arm of my study. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for those two intelligent questions. And so regarding use of tables and charts, thank you for asking that question. So in terms of tables, so there are also rules guiding, okay, am I going to use tables? Am I going to use graph or charts? So for tables, it's usually preferred that when you have so many variables to actually represent, different like age, gender, level of education, income, you can use table for that. But you just only sex, you understand? You don't need to use, if just only sex is the variable that just only want to depict, you don't need to have tables, because the least you can want to use is maybe charts, but maybe a bar chart or a pie chart for that. But just for only one variable, you will not be able to use. You not want to use. What is it called? You don't want to use table just for only one variable. And regarding your question about triangulation, yeah, that okay. When you want to compare what you have in your quantitative and qualitative, are you triangulating? Yes, that's also a form of triangulation. See that, okay, do they enhance, just like what I've written here, do they enhance, confirm, challenge, or explain? But in another context, triangulation also means what I've also explained, by you try to look at differences among your participants. Whether they saying the same thing, do they differ in terms of the triangulation just like comparing multiple data sources and trying to just see area of similar commonalities and differences. What you obtain in IDI, that is the data source. What you get from focus group is also a data source. What you get from your quantitative survey is also a data source. So try to triangulate them, checking them and see commonalities, and that is the heart of triangulation. So you are also doing triangulation if you check findings from your quantitative and see that does it align with your qualitative studies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bakare. Do we have any other question, participants? Any other question? Okay, I think we do not have any other. So, dear participants, please let's appreciate Dr. Ayobami Bakari for the amazing time he has spent providing clarity to us on result writing. And we do hope that in one of our future sessions, one, Dr. Bakari would join us again, and two, we hope that we'll be able to have a hands-on practical demonstration also, where each of us would be writing by ourselves. I think that would be very helpful also, so that we ensure that we are putting into practice the things we learn. All right, so next week, Saturday, by 8 a.m. Nigerian time, that's GMT +1. We do hope that you'll be able to join us, dear participants, on another exciting and insightful session on how to write the discussion section of the manuscripts. We want to keep publishing so that we'll inform policies and drive evidence-based decision making everywhere we go. We do not want our research or researches to be confined to the pages of the books, our thesis or dissertation. No, we want it to be out there so that it makes the change or changes which we desire. All right. So once again, this session has been organized by Plus Circle Community Health Advancement Organization, a non-governmental organization committed to advancing community health, school health, and research. And one of the things we do is this weekly webinar series. Like we've mentioned in the past 2 weeks up till today, we've been talking about, it's been a workshop to discuss the different components of a manuscript, where we are taking it section by section. Thank you so much for joining us. And to our amazing speaker, Dr. Ayobami Bakari, it's good to see you on this call today.
Thank you.
Very exciting. Thank you so much for the clarification you provided. We do appreciate you. Overall, as we wrap up, I would like to tell us or remind us to please follow us on our social media platforms. The video recording of this session will be uploaded on our YouTube page and shared on our other social media platforms too. So please do well to follow. We'll also be sending a mail to that effect so that those who are here to subscribe can follow us and can see the link to the video when it is ready. Thank you so much. We do appreciate you. Please enjoy the rest of the weekend. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.